Good morning, everybody. It is Lost Pilot, and I want to talk about NeoFly today. NeoFly, if you don't know what it is, well, it's a bush pilot mod for Flight Sim. It is free, and it is fantastic, and I highly recommend you check it out. But the purpose of this video isn't to give a general overview of NeoFly. It's actually to talk about one specific facet of the latest update to NeoFly version 1.3.4 and how that affects sharing missions between pilots. So if you've ever flown with another pilot using NeoFly, you know that each pilot gets a randomized list of missions that are not shared. And as a result, you might not have missions to the same ICAO, and you may want to change that. So in the old version, you would basically go into the NeoFly folder, into the DB folder, and grab two files that match the ICAO of the airport you were going to. With 1.3.4 and beyond, that's not so simple. There is a database between you and the data now, so you must work with the database in order to export these missions. Now, this is of course a beta program, and it may change. He may find ways to make this easier, or even make a sort of multiplayer or sharing sort of system in the program itself. But for right now, that isn't possible, so let's talk about how to do it. So you can't do it from NeoFly itself, so you will need a third-party program. I really like DB Browser for SQLite. I'm going to pull that up right now. So again, that's called DB Browser for SQLite. Just Google and download that. It's a great free tool. And you don't need to know SQL as a language, so to speak, and you don't need to know pretty much anything about how to use it. You kind of just need to follow along. There is a PDF guide that shows you how to do this already, and you can find that on the NeoFly Discord. It's a pinned post, but I wanted to do a video because at least I can only speak for myself, but I learned from videos far better than from pretty much any other type of material. So without further ado, once you open DB Browser for SQLite, you won't actually see this. You won't see anything. I'll actually close this database and discard whatever changes I may have made. So this is what you're going to see. There's nothing. So you're going to have to open the database to begin with, and you can do that with this Open Database button right here. Another option is you can actually tell the DB file to always open with DB Browser for SQLite. But either way, you can do it this way. So you'll see that I'm on my C drive and I'm in NeoFly. This just happens to be where I put NeoFly. You may have it somewhere else. Just navigate to that NeoFly folder and go to the DB folder. And there is one file in there called common.db. So go ahead and double click that. And you have the database open. So you're on a page right now that isn't going to be super helpful to you. It's called the database structure or schema. It's not anything you really need to work with. You can click the Browse Data tab and you can look through the various tables that are here. The one we're after is missions. You'll see I do have mission files in here right now. These are generated every time you go to an airport and hit search. So it will fill this database up with missions, which you'll of course see inside of the sim. And you'll notice I'm missing some icons here, mission and rank. We'll get to why and how to fix that in a couple of ways in just a minute. That comes from sharing the files though, so we will talk about that. So what you essentially want to do to share these with your friend who is maybe flying with you and you want the same missions, you don't have to be here. First of all, you don't actually need to be in Browse Data. You can be anywhere. You're going to hit File, Export, and you're going to choose Tables as CSV file. Once you're in here, you're going to look for the missions table. And that's the only one you need to click. Go ahead and just click missions and then leave everything default here. Leave that box checked and leave all these options to default. And you're going to hit save. And it's going to ask you where you want to save that. So I'm just going to choose my desktop and it's going to say export completed. So on my desktop, I now have a file called missions.csv. So now let's pretend we are the receiving pilot. We are the person who's going to get this file. They will also need DB Browser for SQLite or a similar program because they need to do an import. So for them to do an import, it's pretty simple. It's about as easy as it was to export. They're going to go to File, and actually I'll simulate doing this by going to Browse Data and that missions table, and I'm just going to click and hit Control A, delete. So now I have nothing in my missions table at all. It's as if I've never actually searched for an airport. So we're going to go to File, Import, Table from CSV file. And then we are going to find that file. I have it right here, missions.csv, and we're going to click Open. So this window is going to pop up. There's a very important thing here. If column names in first line is not checked, you must check that for it to work. Otherwise, as you can see, one of the rows is the headers, and the headers don't have names, and that will not work at all. You'll get an error. It'll be a bad time for everybody. So go ahead and make sure that column names in first line is checked so that you've got your columns with the right names and only data inside this. So then we're going to click OK, and it's going to say, hey, there's already a table named missions. Do you want to import the data into it? And we'll say yes, but I'm going to pause here to talk about something else. If you and your friend do this more than once, something inevitable might happen. You'll go to an airport, you'll generate a missions.csv file, you'll send it to them on Discord or something. They'll download it, and then they'll import it into their database. All's well, you'll do it again. And if they didn't delete that other file that they had already downloaded last time, they're going to actually probably have Windows rename it to missions and then a 1 in parentheses. You've probably seen that before when you download a duplicate file. That's what Windows will do. And when that happens and they go to import and they don't realize it, this name up here, table name, will actually say missions 1. If that happens, it's no big deal. They just need to remove that, or they need to change the Windows file name. Either way, you can just back that out and make sure it just says missions. And we'll click OK, and it says, yes, there's already table name missions. Do you want to import? Yes, we do. And voila, there we go. So I have all the missions now from that file that I exported. Now, it isn't possible, to my knowledge, it is not possible to only export certain rows in any way that's like easy, but you can do it. So let's say you only wanted to export YMML. So if that was the case, here's what I would do. I would select anything that isn't YMML and delete it. And don't worry, you're not going to lose this. We're going to make sure you don't lose this. We're going to delete everything other than YMML. So there we go. Cool. So now you only have YMML. Now we're going to perform that export of those tables, or that table, to CSV. We're going to do that. We're going to put it on the desktop, and we're going to overwrite the one that was already there. Export completed. Wonderful. And now at that point, you can essentially undo what you did, or you can just close and not save, and you being the pilot who's sending these files, right? So you can just close and tell it, hey, don't save my changes, discard. That way you still end up with all the ones you deleted. I don't think you can Control Z to go back. You cannot. So you do have to just close but discard your changes. So to show what happens there, I'm going to delete everything again, and I'm going to go to import that table again. And there it is. And yep, and yep. And now you'll see all we have is YMML. So you, the sending pilot, actually got to keep all your other airports. The receiving pilot only got YMML. Not a big deal. I honestly don't do that because my friend and I always fly together in NeoFly, so we just share the entire table, the entire missions table. It's not a big deal. But if you do want to do that, that's how you do that. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about next, because this is a kind of a big gotcha. It's not the end of the world, but it can be annoying. I'm going to close this database and discard my changes to start with, and I'm going to reopen that database and show you something. I'm going to go back to browsing missions. Okay, so the images for your rank right over here, this whole column, as well as the images for your mission type, are an absolute path, and what that means is it says the entire name. It says, for my case, it says C, NeoFly 134, image, sends freight, and y'all freight, and partner, and secret passenger, all that. So that's where those images are located, and those are the icons that should be here in the mission column and the rank column. But you'll notice I don't have them, and there's a reason for that. The reason I don't have them is because my friend and I have our NeoFly folders in a different location. And I'll actually show you what that looks like in the actual database as well. So mine, again, is on my C drive. If we scroll down far enough, you'll see one in an F drive, and that says F NeoFly, NeoFly 134. That's where my friend keeps his NeoFly folder. He uses a different hard drive, and he has a NeoFly folder that contains the main version NeoFly. So whenever I try to fly, or I try to search for the airport that he sent me in his missions file, I'm not going to get the icons anymore because it's looking for the icons on his folder, not in mine, which is C. So there's two ways of solving this. There's probably another way. I'm going to get into the easiest way first and then the trickier way. The easy way is to just make sure you and your friend use the same folder. That's as easy as it has to be. Just go into your computer, look where your NeoFly folder is, and then hop on Discord with your buddy and say, hey, please put yours in the same location so that we can share the files and not lose the icons. If you don't care about the icons, no big deal. I mean, you can still, I think, hover maybe and see what the mission type is. Actually, you can't, so it maybe is a big deal. You can still at least see whether or not you can fly the mission using the red or green dots, but yeah, it's kind of a bummer to not have those icons. So that's the first way to do it, which is just to ensure you guys use the same folder structure to begin with, and then the problem goes away. The next way to solve it is a bit more complicated. So while you could go in and actually manually change all of these, you could actually edit these and put your own path here and just put C:, and there we go. Now that's the right location. I could hit apply, and at least that one mission is going to have the right icon for mission type, and I'd have to go over here and do the same thing for the rank. Okay, that's not ideal. That's going to take you forever, and you're going to have to do it every time so long as you and your friend are using a different folder path. So again, just use the same folder path if you can. The C drive is going to be the C drive everywhere, so unless your friend doesn't have a C drive somehow, that's going to be the easiest way to do it. Next way to do it is actually using the SQL syntax. Over here on the right, you've got this execute SQL script here. So I've got a little bit of this written up, and we'll talk about it a bit. So SQL is it's not so much a language, but it is, you do have to know how it works. That said, I've written a one-line SQL query here that literally just looks for missions that have the type image with an F at the beginning, right? So I say select star or everything from missions, that's the name of that table here that we're looking at, where the mission type image, and that's the name of the column, that column that has that image right here, mission type image, that's where I got that, where that is like, and then inside quotes here I say F:\\, and then a % symbol. The % symbol means anything can come after what I've typed. So F:\\, anything. So I've already run it below, but then you would hit this run button right here that says execute all queries. So as you can see, it went through the database and it did exactly what I asked. It found every row in this table where the mission type image is that, okay? So you can write a query to change this. And I'm actually going to pause the video and write the rest of this query because I'm not the fastest gunslinger in the West, so I don't want to bore you with me trying and failing a few times. So I will come right back once I've got that query figured out. Right, so I am back and we have some queries. Now, I know you're probably thinking, if you're not familiar with SQL, this looks like a nightmare. I don't want to deal with this. Trust me when I say it's really not that bad, and you can, for the most part, copy and paste what I've done here. In fact, I'll put it in the description of the video if I can figure out how to form it correctly, or I'll link to a paste bin or something of the sort that has the SQL queries in it. So, first things first, I have two tabs. You may notice I've replaced an update tab. You can create a new tab using this button at the top left here that looks like a tab with a plus. That'll add a new tab there. You can double click any tab name to rename it. So I have two, and I've got one called replace and one called update. And the reason for that is because it's always good practice to see what you're going to be replacing before you actually do it. So the statement I have in this tab is a statement that essentially says I want to select the mission type image and the rank image. Those are the names from the browse data, looking at the columns. And I want to replace I also want to rather select a new result replacing the mission type image where there is a substring that says F NeoFly with just C. And we're doing that because my friend has his NeoFly 1.3.4 folder inside of F NeoFly, where I have mine just in C. Okay, so that's why we're just replacing that substring, because the rest of it is identical. And then I want to do the same thing. I want to replace rank I. In rank I, I want to replace this value with that value, same as above. And we're not actually doing anything here, and that's important. I want to point that out. I want to select that from the missions table, as we saw over in Browse Data, where the mission type image is like F:/ and then whatever else. Okay, so we're essentially saying from this missions table, we want to make those changes where, and only where, it is true that the mission type image starts with this F:/ NeoFly instead of C:/. Okay? So let's go back there, and when we run this, I already have it down here, but I'll hit play again to show you. When we run this, it's going to do two things. It's going to provide a table, and it's going to give an output down here that tells us what happened. You'll see it says execution finished without errors. Result 189 rows were returned, and then it kind of just spits out what we told it to do in the first place, which was this big select statement. The table it returned is the mission type image and the rank image, as we asked for right here. And then it's the result of the replace statements that we asked for right here. So it's saying, okay, well, here's the F:/ NeoFly yada yada and the F:/ NeoFly yada yada from these two columns. And here's the replaces you asked for, C:/ and then the whole path, and so on and so forth. And this is the path we want. That didn't change the database. I can prove that by going to Browse Data, and you'll see that there are plenty of F:/ NeoFly yada yada things there, right? So it didn't change anything. And even if I were to click write changes or something, it's not gonna change anything. We haven't done anything yet at all. All we've gotten is a list of what we asked for. Okay, so to actually make the magic happen, we have to update the database. So that's why I created this separate update tab. And you can leave these here and just use them as often as you want. In the update tab, we're saying I want to update missions. So I want to actually update that table. And I want to set the mission type image to be the replacement that replaces F NeoFly with C for mission image type, as well as replace rank I for the rank image in the same way. So run a replace statement, pass in the rank image, and then say I want to replace this part of that string with just C, so that it'll now say C:/ whatever instead of F:/ NeoFly whatever, where the mission type image is like F:/ so on and so forth. So this is the one that actually does the work. And you always want to do a replace first, or a select first rather, to see what you're going to replace, right? So we can see here, is this what I want to do? Yes, it is what I do. That is where those images live on my computer. It's exactly what I want to do. So now we're going to go to this update statement where we actually set those values, and we're going to click run to execute. And it says here, execution finished without errors. Result query executed successfully. Took 5 milliseconds. 189 rows affected. And again, it just spits out the code we asked for. So let's go to Browse Data and take a look now. And what do you see? Every single mission image type is on the C drive, and every single rank image is on the C drive as well. So with that done, we can go ahead and we can go to Save All, or I think you can click Write Changes, either way. And now, when I go to NeoFly and hit search for Asheville again, all the icons are back. I'm noticing there's one that's not back. We can take a look at why that's the case. It's the only one, weirdly enough, that's there. So let's take a look and see what happened. I'm happy to see that the majority of them are totally back. So this is a Kilo Alpha Victor Lima 2-3 November Romeo 3. So let's go see what happened with that one in the database. So we will look at the arrival, and we'll actually sort by arrival there, so we can quickly find 3 in R3. So there's 2 of them listed here. Let's go find out which one it is. Here it is. It's row 37. Okay, this goes from Kilo Alpha Victor Lima 2-3 and R3. So let's scroll over to the actual images and see what happened. All right, so this one worked. The sensitive freight, that actually worked totally fine. So it's the rank image that didn't work. Aha! So this one actually still has the rank image from before we made the change. So what this means is I probably made a change to this row while testing things out when I was paused. So that's my error. You don't need to worry about that there. We are going to solve that for ourselves real quick, just to give you a little extra helping of SQL knowledge that you might not even want. And instead of saying where the mission image type is like F, we're going to say this, because if I run this, I'm going to get nothing back. So I'm going to say actually where the rank image is like that. And weirdly, oh, you know what? I'm a dummy. I ran the update statement instead of the SQL query. So I should have done that here. I should have ran rank image like this. Of course, now it's not going to find it because I actually fixed it because I ran it in the update statement. So you can just swap rank I and mission image type here. It's fine. You shouldn't need to do that at all, though. I only needed to do that because I went in there and borked something by, you know, making a change manually when I demonstrated how you could just type it in. That was my bad. I did that. So yeah, you should be safe to just run these queries anytime. So all you need to do to make this work for you, if you run into this problem where your data is corrupted in the sense that you don't have these icons, I'm actually going to do a search here to show that that 3NR3 is going to come back. Boom, there's the icon. All you'll need to do is know where yours is located. Okay, so find out where you have NeoFly, and I highly recommend you just put it on right on your C drive, and then find out where your friend has NeoFly, and you can do that again just by going to Browse Data, choose the missions drop down, and look to see where something appears that isn't matching yours. And then once you know what's different, and it's probably going to be like a drive, maybe they have something like their entire user folder, right? So maybe they have something like C users Bob desktop, you know, and then NeoFly 134, and you just have it on C. That's all you would need to do to change it, is you put the part of their path that differs from yours here, okay, and in this, apologies for these notifications popping up, all right, with that little parenthesis symbol, or percent symbol rather, and then you would do a search, run this, make sure it brings up the results and that everything looks good, and then in your update you would replace it the same way, right? So you'd replace all those with these. So if you've got a friend who is just stubborn and they're like, I'm not moving my files, I'm gonna keep them where I have them, that's where I want them to be, this is how you can fix that, so that, oops, let me put that back to mission type image. This is how you can fix it. So now anytime that I get files from my friend who has his on the F drive, I'll just close this to show you. Do you want to save changes to the SQL tabs in a new project file? Absolutely. And when asked what project file we want to put these in, so you can put these anywhere, honestly. I wouldn't put them inside of the database folder. I would maybe put them inside the NeoFly folder, though. I don't think it'll cause any problems. Just keep the project file here. The reason you're doing that is because when you go back into DB browser, SQLite, okay, you're going to not have the database open, and you're not going to have any SQL execution tabs open. Okay, so what you want to do is click Open Project now, and then wherever you stored that project file, in my case, I put it right inside the NeoFly folder. So I'll just double-click common.sqb pro. So now what's wonderful is it brought those SQL queries back, and it actually looks like it opened the database for us as well. So we have the database open now, and you can execute those queries. So yeah, you get a file from your friend, you import those statements as shown before, and you don't have icons, you just pop in here, you run your replace, run your update, or if you're real confident, just run your update. But like I said, always good to run replace first to make sure the data is going to change in the way you expect. That's all there is to it. I know it looks beefy, but it's really not that bad, and in the future this will probably be totally irrelevant because there will be a native way to do this or something similar to solve this problem of shared files. Thanks for watching. Ask any questions in the comments down below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and have a great day.